bá sọ fún wọn pé mo kọ́ nǹkan báyìí kí ni ẹ̀rí àrídájú wípé lóòótọ́ òye nǹkan báyìí ó sọ àti pé ó kàn ṣe àhesọ ni. So àwọn nǹkan báyìí ló máa ń jẹ́ pé àwọn Yorùbá rí wọn á lè rí pé lóòótọ́ ohun tó lù ẹ̀ sọ kì í ṣe òfegè bí ó ṣe ohun tí ó múná dé oko. So níwọ̀n bá jọ́ bí ìjọba máa jókòó báyìí mo ṣúrọ̀ pé a máa gbádùn ètò yìí àdẹ̀ní yàyè fún ìbéèrè náà torí a ní àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n nípa ẹ̀rọ ọkọ̀ àwọn ẹnjìníà nípa ẹ̀rọ ọkọ̀ wọ́n wà ní orí ìjókòó fúnjọ́ méjì máa introduce wọn fún wa ní nígbà tó bá yá so that a lè béèrè torí wọ́n ní kò sẹ́ni tí ó mọ̀ tán ibi tí tẹnìkan dé ibẹ̀ ni tí ẹlòmíì jọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ àbádẹ̀ ti pé àfinú tajọ ṣe àṣàrò pọ̀ àtúnlóye nǹkan tí a mọ̀ ju bí a ti ṣe mọ̀ sí tẹ́lẹ̀ so mo kí wu akáàbọ̀ sínú ètò náà.
Lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́ àti ṣọ̀kan lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́ ìwà rere àti ṣọ̀kan ìwà rere lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́. Progress.
Ìwà rere lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́ àti ṣọ̀kan lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́ ìwà rere àti ṣọ̀kan ìwà rere lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ta ń fẹ́
See her in person. Ẹni tí mo máa introduce wọn lẹ́dẹ̀kejì àwọn ẹ̀dẹ̀ tí ń kọ́ lórí afẹ́fẹ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ yìí lè ti máa gbórúkọ ẹ̀ tí pé ẹ̀ ti mọ̀ àwọn ni wọ́n jẹ́ Ayimero Ohaikena àwọn ni head of program ní Rockcity FM. Ilé iṣẹ́ tí wọ́n tún gbé tí wọ́n so wọ́n pọ̀ mọ́ wa àwọn náà ni tẹ̀tí ń gbọ́ lórí jingle tá à ń ṣe lórí afẹ́fẹ́ that is Automedics Ltd àwọn ni wọ́n máa ṣèdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yẹn fún wa so ẹni àkọ́kọ́ tí màá kọ́kọ́ fi ṣe àfihàn fún wa àwọn ni ẹnjìníà Kúnlé Ṣónáìkì.
Midway Assurance, thank you for being our partners too, where you are partners in Lagos, so we know how good you guys are, how impactful you are in the society when it comes to automotive.
Good morning, ladies first and gentlemen. My name is Benedict Oko from Automedics. You pardon me, I may not be able to speak in vernacular, and it is the fault of my order. What we're discussing today is understanding how your vehicle works so that you'll be able to improve the maintenance. If you don't know how the vehicle system works, it will be very difficult for you to know how to even maintain it. So first and foremost, understand how the vehicle works. So many things that we actually do to vehicles are just, some mess, some of them are myths, some of them are not so they do them before. But a lot has changed in the automobile world. A lot have changed. From the oil to the fuel to everything that you think about has changed. But a lot of us are still stuck to that old way of doing things. And that is why most times we have problems. So we'll look at some of those things carefully and then we'll discuss them one after the other. Now, those who have attended our courses before, when we say a powertrain, you know exactly what we are talking about. When you are dealing with it, you know how to actually localize the problem because the computer that we use, the running diagnosis of the vehicle, will break it into sections. So if you don't understand the sections of the vehicle, how will you be able to resolve the problem? So we are going to look at the powertrain system, the engine itself, how does the engine work? Because the modern engine has changed. Now, as mechanics now we are discussing, the engine dynamics, That is the engine block, the connecting rod, crankshaft and piston. Nothing has changed here, right? Everything still remains the same, whether diesel or petrol. The block is still the same. The pistons are still the same. The connecting rod, crankshaft, let's say half block is still the same. But a lot has changed on the upper part of the cylinder, from the cylinder head. So many things have changed. Diesel engine doesn't have a spark plug. How does it start? It doesn't have a spark plug. Because on a petrol engine, you need the spark plug to ignite the air-fuel mixture. But then on a diesel engine, you don't have a spark plug. All you have there is a glow plug, or what they call heater plug. That is the only thing you have there. And the reason why you have the heater is not for it to ignite the diesel, but to heat the air while the air is being compressed. Diesel engines are called compression ignition engine because it uses compression to ignite the diesel. What is the process of replacing it? They will shape the metal from what I did. Good. By doing that, we have actually increased the compression ratio. Because now the piston is going to compress the air-fuel mixture even more higher. And that is the reason why most times when mechanics do that, they will tell you, put double gasket. Now the gasket you have put in, the second gasket, is to compensate for the cylinder head that has been smoothed. Because if you don't do that, it will end up pinging. What is the name? What is it? It will start pinging.
Older engines tend to have one intake and one exhaust valve. Some engines have two intake and one exhaust valve. Most high-performance engines use two intake and two exhaust valves. The opening and closing of the valves is performed by the camshaft with a higher volume of exhaust, resulting in better breathing with less back pressure. We're going to...
How does the oil pressure control it? Tẹ́bá wo kíní yẹn, ẹ̀rí pé wọ́n ṣò arrow kan tó ń move nínú ẹ̀. When those arrows are moving, based on the load tí engine yẹn wà under, the RPM, the speed, then the oil pressure ló máa determine because kíní VVT yẹn tó wà ní kíní yellow tó wà níwájú camshaft yẹn tó ń ṣò yẹn works with oil pressure, but bó ṣe máa ṣiṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú oil pressure yẹn is going to be determined by the VVT solenoid. Sensor lẹ́yìn pé, but it's actually a solenoid tó wà lára cylinder head lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ lára engine block yẹn níbi wájú timing chain yẹn. If the computer does not control it to open pé ìgbà báyìí ni kò ṣe kó jẹ́ kí oil pressure lọ sínú ṣé exhaust ni or camshaft ló máa determine bó ṣe máa lock a spring inú kíní yẹn. And most of you guys will make a mistake tí ò bá yé yín ẹ tú kíní yẹn lọ wẹ́ẹ̀dì ẹ̀ pa. Tẹ́bá lẹ̀ ti wẹ́ẹ̀dì ẹ̀ pa wá discover pé engine yẹn ò ṣiṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú fẹ́ kó ṣiṣẹ́ mọ́ ìṣẹ́dà kí RPM ẹ̀ high kí RPM ẹ̀ high or kó má di power. Because ẹ ti take the configuration ẹ̀ gbà yẹn computer ò recognize ẹ̀ nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nìyẹn.
Orúkọ mi ni Mr. Ayọ̀délé Adé. Question tó béèrè wípé lórí BBTI routine wà lórí camshaft. So mo rí pé nígbà tó sọ̀rọ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ sọ pé tí ó bá ti wí àti tó bá ti rà tó àwọn ní àwọn so ẹ̀rí àwẹ̀ yẹn. Nígbà tó wáyé àfẹ́wé tí change ní àwọn àṣìkò àbí ìjà ìṣẹ́lẹ̀ fún ìjọba.
Ẹ̀jẹ̀ ti dá béèrè ọ̀gbẹ́ni ẹ̀. Lórí sí ṣórí ìbéèrè ẹ̀ dáwọ́ sí béèrè. Now, you can change it. The only thing tó máa bàjẹ́ ní ẹ̀ nínú VVT yẹn which is this yellow tẹ̀tẹ̀ wood spring yẹn máa ń pọ́n sínú gbà mí. But rarely ló máa fi pọ́n. In most cases, tẹ́ bá ní challenge tí kìíní yóò bá ṣiṣẹ́ dáadáa, the challenge you have is either you have sludge ó ti build up sínú engine yẹn, tí sludge bá lẹ̀ ti pọ̀ jù ó máa affect ṣé mọ̀ pé solenoid kan wà lọ ara bí engine block yẹn lọ́wọ́ wájú. It's not a switch, it's a solenoid, but switch lẹ́yìn pé whatever you want to call it. Ṣẹ́rí kìíní yẹn ló ń jẹ́ kí oil pressure wá síbi because nǹkan tó ń control kìíní ìtẹ̀wò is actually oil pressure. Tí oil pressure bá wà reduce sí kò ní ṣiṣẹ́ dáadáa. Nǹkan tó dẹ̀ máa allow oil pressure yẹn láti débẹ̀ is that thing you call switch, which is the DVT solenoid. In most cases, nǹkan tó ń bá solenoid yẹn is sludge. Tó bá ti build up sludge tó máa block àwọn ohun tí oil máa gbàdé díẹ̀ ara solenoid yẹn náà tẹ́ bá yọ síta ẹni pé sludge ti pọ̀ lára ẹ̀ ó máa affect plunger ẹ̀ bó ṣe move up and down to allow. Sometimes you can clean it, then solenoid yẹn fúnra rẹ̀ máa ń bàjẹ́. Tí solenoid yẹn bá bàjẹ́ ibi tí experience electrical ti come in nìyẹn, you have to use your electrical experience or go get a wire ó bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe resistance test lára wọ́n lè test bóyá ó mú kó ṣiṣẹ́ bó ṣe yẹ kó ṣiṣẹ́. But ìtẹ̀sílọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ ní kíní yẹn you're not supposed to really lẹ́ẹ̀ma fi ara mọ́tò tí kíní ti máa bàjẹ́ jù tó jẹ́ pé eléyìí ẹ̀ máa ní láti change ẹ̀ is Mercedes C250 C300 ó máa ń bàjẹ́ lára ẹ̀ kan bọ̀ ara kò ní dà really kíní máa fi bàjẹ́. Nǹkan tó bàjẹ́ ìdè solenoid bọ̀ ẹ̀yin máa fi pèlè ló bàjẹ́ wá lọ wẹ́ẹ̀dẹ̀ ìjọba tó wẹ́ẹ̀dẹ̀ lé ẹ̀ ti confuse kọ̀mpútà ẹ̀ ti confuse solenoid one kò ní lè control because based on the oil pressure ló máa determine time tí kìíní máa lock tó máa release láti allow valve láti open and close because based on lo different criteria. Based on the engine horsepower, the load tó wà on ló máa determine bí kí ní ṣe máa lọ because computer ló control it. Ṣé mo dáhùn question ẹ̀? Alright, any other question?
Mechanics during the days of 504, 505. Now, if I explain this to you, you understand what the DVT system do on the engine. You know, back that time, distributor there's a position that the distributor will be that we call it is too low. But you see that the engine will idle very, very well, very smooth, no shaking at all. There's a position you will shift it and then it will be advanced. And then you see that the car will move very well, but the idling will be very, very rough. Because of that, the 504 or 505, they have what they call the vacuum advance. One vacuum from the manifold to the vacuum actuator. Then inside the distributor itself, there are two weights with spring inside. It is called the centrifugal advance mechanism. I'm sure we still remember. Now, by the time the vehicle is no longer having a distributor, what will do that job? The VVT. The automatic will monitor several conditions, including the load and the speed, before it will be able to change the gear by itself. If you are not a good driver and you are driving a manual transmission vehicle, and you want to climb from here to there, and you are using gear 3, I won't climb there. It's not possible. The automatic transmission can also have the same problem like that, because it is controlled by a computer does not mean that it can't have problem. Now, usually every computer has a default mode. That is what is called a fail-safe mode. A fail-safe is a condition that the vehicle will be able to operate minimally without damaging too much component. For instance, if you have a problem with the engine management system, maybe the oxygen sensor, the mass airflow sensor, the default is that it is going to make the vehicle or the injector to pour more fuel. If the vehicle engine is burning more fuel, it doesn't cause damage to the vehicle itself that much, but more to the environment. Thereby also building carbon in the engine, but it will not cause any serious damage to the engine. The first automatic that started coming in, we are not electronic control. There was no wire connected to the first model of automatic transmission that we are coming. Am I right? All you have there was a cable connected to the throttle pedal, either through the throttle butterfly or from the pedal area. And that one is for kick down. Modern automatic use various information like wheel speed, vehicle speed, throttle position for it to operate. So it doesn't need much of that fluid pressure anymore. The solenoids are doing the job that the detent valves are doing, to open the passage so that the fluid will be able to pass through.
Which one is faster? Will it be manual car and the auto?
There are certain things that determine the speed of the vehicle, irrespective of the type of the gear, whether automatic or manual. There is what is known as the gear ratio. Now, a vehicle could be 4-speed transmission. For instance, let's say a Mercedes-Benz 4-speed and a Toyota 4-speed. Their gear ratio is not the same. You must find out that the Mercedes-Benz gear ratio has higher speed range than the Toyota. And you will see it get you up to about 260 kilometers an hour, whereas the Toyota will only get you to 160. That is on one side. The automatic transmission also has the torque converter. The torque converter is what acts as the clutch. Now the way the torque converter works is like you have two fans. You power one fan, blowing against another fan that is not powered at all. At a point, you will see that the fan that is not powered will begin to turn. As time goes on, if you increase the speed of this one, you see that that speed of that one will increase and they will start going at the same speed. But the time it will take that fan to start turning is a delay. It has what is called a stall speed. The speed at which it will stop. Now if you engage on the automatic transmission, you don't need to step on the clutch before you engage the gear, because it is on a stall speed. Now, if you increase the speed of the engine when it is engaged, that is when it begins to move. The same thing will happen to automatic transmission if the engine RPM is running too high. But there's one clever thing that modern vehicle manufacturer has done. They put what they call the torque converter lockup. Now, what it does is that the moment you engage the gear and you step on the accelerator, it begins to move immediately. Unlike the older ones that are not electronic control, sometimes move before. That is why a lot of people will tell you that the automatic transmission is slower. But the modern ones, they are smarter because they use computer to actually overcome that problem. For instance, Honda, they use what they call CVT only. That is what they use. Any Honda that you see is using a CVT, that is continuously variable transmission. Some Nissan use CVT too, and then they also use the traditional cycling gear. So the automatic transmission has not got to that perfection like the manual, but there are so many of them that are near perfect.
The money takes time to start. Hard start. I scanned it. It's always saying P01. Airflow meter stops again. And it's like I've changed airflow meter like 5 times. But still it's still doing and started and everything. And I was okay, let's leave the scanner thing aside and everything. Let's go for experience now. But the system did not tell me pressure.
See, when you get a code on any vehicle, the interpretation of the code matters a lot. How the code is interpreted. Of course, you get in a mass airflow sensor. And what will cause the air mass flow sensor to be triggered will probably be something like dirty air filter, a faulty mass airflow. It could be anything. Scanner has different language because depending on where your car is coming from will depend the kind of language it speaks. In the automotive world, we call it protocol. In most cases, you will not get the code. And the reason why you will not get the code, it won't trigger a code is when you're starting it in the morning, the first thing immediately you turn the key on, going to the crank position, the computer sends a signal to all the sensors and says, I need reports from every one of you. And the first one that will give the report is your engine coolant temperature sensor. Mass airflow will also give, but it won't give until the engine crank. That's the code we are getting because the engine was running before this code is triggered. But the person running the scan could have gone into a mode that will give him to let him know what's going on. Go to the data stream mode. That data stream is how everything is working at that time. So when it's cranking, you'll be able to see the flow of fuel, the air pressure, the fuel pressure, to be able to tell, okay, this is my problem. But because when you're cranking, there's nothing reporting that the fuel pressure is low, the computer is not storing the code. And once it starts, it won't give any code because it's running fine. And what happens is, every time you park the car, because the fuel pressure regulator is bad, it dumps the fuel back into the tank. And for every vehicle on the road that's electronically controlled or that uses a fuel pressure regulator, there must be an amount of fuel pressure maintained in the fuel rail. A certain amount. That at crank up, when you're cranking at cold start, that's the first fuel that goes into that the injector uses to start the car before but because that fuel pressure regulator is bad, it dumps the fuel. So each time you're cranking the car, the fuel pump is trying to build up that pressure. And if the fuel pressure regulator is really bad, as that pressure is getting to the fuel pressure regulator, it dumps it back because it's going to, your fuel pump must be very good to keep pumping that pressure at a higher rate before the car starts. Gbogbo mọ́tò tẹ̀ ṣe é ṣe tó bá ti jẹ́ láti 1996 dé déètì yìí 1996 kọ̀mpútà rẹ̀ ò pọ̀ but anything from 2000 or káwá lọ mú 2015 up to date ẹ máa rí mọ́tò mi tó ní 45 kọ̀mpútà nínú. And those computers are talking to each other. And yes, some of them will wait a mechanic. As a mechanic, we are getting. Reason to say you're getting the way to competence is a lot. Beauty, a hook of scanner is a get the code. Phone you put on Facebook now. Abi, they have on Facebook and they look Google. Ọ̀pẹ̀lẹ̀ nìyẹn Ifá ni kóòdù tẹ́rí yẹn tó bá ti lè fún yín ní kóòdù máa wá ní ọ̀nà mẹ́rin ọ̀gbẹ́ni ti sọ́lẹ̀ kan in 4 different ways based on the section àbí part 10 ṣiṣẹ́ code ó sì bẹ̀rẹ̀ àpèjú PBCU. E stands for powertrain, which is your engine and transmission. C stands for chassis, which controls your drive line, your brakes, your differential, all those things. B stands for body, gbogbo àwọn ọmọ bíi airbag, air condition, gbogbo ẹ̀ ló máa gbé kòtò fún yín. And U is communication, which might be more technical for you guys. But the most one more important to you do is that P code, which is the powertrain. Start the code on Google and tell it to search. Oh my good result you get it from in different form. I'm not smarter than you guys, but you guys limit yourself. Púpọ̀ yín tẹ́wá tó kú níbi iṣẹ́ ẹ máa yà ní ọ̀dọ̀ ìyá tájú ẹ máa ra èkó bí àmì ẹ máa ṣe kíní. But invest owó yẹn, I guarantee you invest owó yẹn kẹ́ra scanner, it will change your life. Because when you diagnose, it could be physical, it could be electronic, it could be electrical. Once the body more or less interpret kíní yẹn dáadáa, you can interpret it. You've done 80 to 90% of the job. The rest is just maybe tune adjust or recalibrate or change the part.
Progress. God bless you. Monta. Ọlárẹ̀wájú tọ́jú ọlá ṣọ́bọ̀ wálé lórúkọ mi. Mo represent ó ṣaṣojú iléeṣẹ́ tá à ń pè ní Leadway Assurance Company Limited. Owó èmi ẹ̀yin gbogbo wa ló grow ló fi di pé a di gbajúgbajà. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ bá wa pàtẹ́wọ́ fún Leadway. Sí mọ́tò tá à ń lò, síṣẹ́ tá à ń ṣe, sí irinṣẹ́ wa àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Oríṣiríṣi nǹkan ló wà lábẹ́ ọ̀run. Ṣùgbọ́n Ọlọ́run wá fi ìmọ̀ yẹn yé àwọn kan, ó fi yé wọn pé ókè ẹni tí nǹkan bá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí ní dáadáa nígbà kejì ẹ ràn lọ́wọ́. Ìyẹn ló fa àwọn tí a ń pè ní insurance, third party insurance. Ó dúró fún pé mọ́tò mi kọlu mọ́tò ẹlòmíì, mọ́tò mi kọlu òpó náà tí ó ṣe lè mọ́ ní, mọ́tò mi kọlu fẹ́ẹ̀sì ẹlòmíì, mọ́tò mi kọlu nǹkan tí ó ṣe lè ní. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ̀yà lójú tó fò ẹ wá bá mi gbọ́ bùkátà nǹkan tí mo kọ lára ní. So insurance company àwa sanwó fún nǹkan tó bá bàjẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ tí wa top party ó ń dáhùn kò ní tó náà $1 million ọdún ọba bàjẹ́. A tún ní ìkan tá à ń pè ní top party Automedics nílé iṣẹ́ tiwa a pè ní Automedics. Èyí pé Automedics ẹ̀ jọmọ́ language ẹ̀yìn mechanic àti painter. Ṣẹ̀wọ̀n Automedics ní mọ́tò tó ń dán. Ìyẹn à ń tà ní ìyẹn fún wa ní àǹfààní láti cover up to $1 million fún kọ̀ọ̀kí nǹkan tá a bá bàjẹ́ tó ń ṣe tiwa. Tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ ẹni tó kọlù nìkan lọ́mọ abẹ́ gbé ní top party aláwọ̀ but top party Automedics á fún yín láǹfààní láti tún mọ́tò tí yín náà ṣe up to $250,000 tó bá bàjẹ́ á fún yín tó $250 tó bá gbé $700 nìkan tó bàjẹ́ tá bá rí $250 lọ́tọ̀ọ̀dọ̀ wa náà ààrẹ tí máa ń ti gbé tẹ̀lé oníjẹ kọlù. Top party fire and theft ìyẹn ó cover wípé mọ́tò jóná top party lẹ́ṣẹ̀ lórí ẹ̀ lóòótọ́ o ṣùgbọ́n mọ́tò yẹn wá jóná. Àfin ní iye náà pé ní $1 million. Comprehensive insurance yẹn ó dùn lóòótọ́ ṣùgbọ́n ó ti wá wà affordable sí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ òmò kọ́kọ́ wá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí kó má rówó lápò báyìí láti túnṣe ẹ ti ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn padà sọ́dọ̀ insurance ni insurance àdáyín lò. A dẹ̀ ti ní Nàìjíríà tá a wà lénìí a ti ní àwọn tó ń regulate wa. We call them National Insurance Commission. Bí insurance ṣe ń lọ ní Nàìjíríà kò ṣe pé ìta aláfogun fàtẹ́lẹ̀ yẹn ti lọ. It's so easy now and I want you, Leadway wants you to partner with us kẹ́yìn náà jẹ àǹfààní ètò tó wà lẹ̀. Wọ́n ní kí gbogbo wa ká subscribe sí health insurance so that nígbà tó wọ́n bá sí lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ kò ṣe pé ó máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí máa ní kó máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí tọrọ owó kiri bàbá lágbẹ́dẹ́ wà lọ́sùn tó ìjọba ìrànlọ́wọ́ lọ́wọ́ tó bá ti ní insurance tó máa gbé àwọn bills yẹn.
Cost suspension system. Now the tires are also part of the suspension system. As little as alignment problem is, we as mechanics know that if your tires are not properly aligned, you cannot handle that vehicle well. Most times, we put the wrong air pressure in the tire. It is the vehicle manufacturer that will recommend the tire pressure. That is the standard. Any tire that you put any pressure above 32, you have overinflated the tire. And that is why the manufacturers always put the tire pressure where the driver will always see. Either on the driver door pillar, you will always see a sticker there that will tell you the size of the tire, and also if the vehicle is loaded, what pressure you should put in the front and in the rear. Their own idea is that the bigger the tire, the more the pressure requires. So if you go with an SUV, they will pound on it at 50. Then one wrong thing again that most commercial drivers do, most especially the ones that drive interstate, after they have finished loading their vehicle, they have put fuel. Then they will drive to a roadside vulcanizer to inflate the tires. Why is he doing that? Because he has seen that the vehicle has sat down after carrying so much load. But he doesn't know that increase in the load itself will increase the pressure.
How to choose the best tires for your vehicle, lifestyle, and budget. Step 1. Find your tire size. Tires come in different sizes.
We are not actually using the right tires on our vehicles, because for us to get the right tires, it means that we must have a tire manufacturing plant in our country that must be regulated by the SON based on our weather condition. But for now, everybody is just buying whatever tire they want and using on their vehicle. But the most unfortunate thing is that since we don't even know about tires, we are using tires indiscriminately, and that is why you have high rate of accident associated with tires.
Lọ́la yẹn, àbẹ̀wò mátàtàmà lọ́la suspension system wà lára àkọ́fẹ́ lọ́la kí làwọn ọkọ̀ tó bá ní suspension system. Òun la jókòó síbẹ̀ yẹn, àti wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ táyà yẹn, àwọn ọ̀gá mi méjèèjì àtìmí náà 40 gbogbo wa bá gbé táyà sí. Lubricant wo ló yẹ ká máa lò? Ṣé o kà ní àbúrò káàkiri lórí títì ní àbí èyí tó bá yẹ kó èyí ló fìtì tó ta èyí ló fìtì ìbòjó wà á ṣàlàyé ẹ̀ fún wa dáadáa ní ọ̀la. Cooling system náà a máa yẹ̀ wò lọ́la tó tó so mọ́tò pọ̀ ní pẹ́pẹ́ èyí tó bá omi tó bá dé lójú á padà dé bá imú. Then báwo la ṣe ká máa maintain mọ́tò wa ìgbà wo yẹ kí maintenance system wa kó yẹ kó jẹ́ lórí irú àwọn ẹ̀kẹ́ máa advice per month ni àbí hours tó bá fi tó di èyí sí àwọn ọ̀pọ̀